entry-level teaching companies. There's not really any job progression. You're just there to fill a number, to fill a space. You can move into another career. You can move into a better school. You've just got to get through this barrier of, I can't speak the language. One of the difficult things is they get told, never speak Japanese. I think that's not good, because knowing that you can speak multiple languages is the goal at the end of the day.
Thanks for joining us on Unpacking Japan, proudly produced by our team at Zen Studio with the long-standing support of Zen Group. To keep these weekly stories coming, please consider subscribing. It's the best way to support the show and really makes a difference. And now, let's get into it. Welcome to Unpacking Japan. I'm Toby, and today I have the pleasure to welcome Jake. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you.
You're an international preschool principal here in Japan, where you've been living for over a decade.
13 years.
13 years. You went down the path of English teaching and embraced it and really turned this into a career, a path that I think many people have tried, but everyone decided to stay with it. I'm curious to find out more what you loved about this and how you really turned this into a successful story. But to start our conversation, I want to understand a little bit about your background and why did you come to Japan in the first place?
You know, I always feel guilty when someone asks me that question because I have zero story whatsoever about coming to Japan. So honestly, I was like a terrible student in university. I studied biochemistry.
Wow.
And yeah, that's the good part about it, because everyone reacts like that. But I did not enjoy going to classes. I got kicked out once, and then I got given another chance at a different school. But I realized, like, I have no idea what I want to do. And somebody that I lived with in my dorm in university, he had actually lived in Hiroshima for a year, in like his gap year from going from what we call college in England, high school, to university. And he just said, you know, if you've no idea what you want to do, maybe just go live abroad for a year, just maybe dabble a bit in the language, refresh a little bit, and then maybe you can come back and then figure out what you want to do after that. I didn't really know much about Japan before I came here. Like, I had played video games, you know, Pokemon, Beyblade and stuff on TV, but I didn't really know it was Japanese. But when I started looking on YouTube at Japan, I came across like a few people, Kurt Bell, I think you've had on here, Michaela, who you had a few, like they were some of the first people that I saw on YouTube. And just seeing those kind of J-vlogs, as they were called at the time, just walking around the streets, look very clean. The food looked good. I mean, I'm attracted to food as long as it looks good. And I thought, well, it looks like a pretty comfortable place to live. So I thought, well, maybe this 1 year in another country might be a good direction, which, you know, has turned into 13 years. But I thought, okay, if I'm going to move to Japan, how would I do it? English teaching. Back then, 13 years ago, it basically was just English teaching. And I just got some like part-time jobs at summer camps, teaching international students in university. And then, as soon as I graduated, didn't even go to my graduation ceremony, asked, can I get my diploma early? And just jumped straight here.
Where do you go when you first went to Japan?
So I was supposed to live in a city called Kuki City, Saitama. And I think something that a lot of people have to be aware of when they come to Japan is you often don't get to choose if you're going to be an English teacher.
So you went with a JET program?
So I was with a company called Peppy Kids Club, which is all over Japan, and except for Tokyo. And they originally put me in a place called Kuki City, but they had a training program for everybody, which turned out to be incredibly useful. In Nagoya for 3 weeks. But as I got to, is it Chubu Airport, I think, around Nagoya? As I arrived there, I was picked up by one of the HR people. And the first thing he said was, change of plan. Unfortunately, you're not going to Kuki City anymore. Because that was about 30 minutes from Tokyo. So I was like, yes, I've hit the jackpot. He was like, you're going to Gunma. I was like, what is a Gunma? I've never heard of Gunma before. It's a bit north of Tokyo, about an hour and a half, and it is very countryside. So I ended up spending 2.5 years in basically nothing.
When the HR person picks you up at the airport and suddenly tells you, so you're going to Japan for the first time, you're going in a country that you don't know, you get told you're going to go to the city near Tokyo, you start daydreaming about, okay, my life might be like this, I'm going to be doing this. All the way on the plane, you're thinking that until you get through customs and suddenly someone tells you, you're going to the mountains.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind at that time when you're suddenly thinking, well, oh, wait, I was ready to go there. You might have even contacted people already in the area.
Well, so I did already make some like online pen pal friends. Unfortunately, on the airplane, the only thing I could think about was I have like a broken tooth from an unfortunate drinking accident. And for some reason, when the plane went up, I think an air pocket expanded. So my face blew up on the airplane and it was unbearable. So the flight to Japan was just 13 hours of agony. So when he told me, you're going to Gunma, I was like, can I go to the hospital first? Because it was the worst pain, even until this day, the worst pain I've ever felt. And that made it cut the nerves, but it added a lot of other feelings instead.
How does that work then when you arrive in Japan? You have not set up anything. You have to go to the hospital, your health insurance and everything. Were you able to actually directly go to the...
So the HR person, as we were driving to the head office, he was like on the phone to the company, like he needs to go to the hospital. He hasn't got the health insurance yet. How do we do this? And he said, okay, we're going to try and see what we can do. Just stay in the company hotel apartments tonight, and we'll see what happens. Luckily, overnight, I guess because of the altitude being gone, it did go down and the pain did stop. So we just put it down to maybe it was an altitude thing, which has made me scared to fly again after that. But yeah, luckily we didn't need the hospital. But I did spend the first night in Japan, lay on a tatami floor, trying not to like sob through the pain, but it was an interesting first day in Japan, to say the least.
I can imagine. And then when you wake up the next morning, the pain is gone. That's a relief. And then probably you don't even care where they take you. It's like, okay, just let's go somewhere. I want to cool down.
So the first thing I did was, because 13 years ago, there's still, in Japan, there wasn't a lot of like public Wi-Fi or anything. So I had to figure out, how am I going to connect to the internet and tell everyone, first, I'm here. Second, I'm not going to Kuki City anymore. Because I was also doing YouTube at that time as well. So I wanted to make a video like, I'm in Japan, guys. Except my face was a balloon. And I was like, that's not happening. So back then, I had to carry my computer, sit outside a 7-Eleven, and like 15 minutes intervals of logging in and out of the 7-Eleven Wi-Fi. And I did that just again and again in my first few days. No time for like traveling or anything. Just I'm too scared to do anything in case the pain comes back. Yeah.
What was it like when you then arrived in Gunma, a place that you didn't know about much before going, and then you arrive in a large town, small town, or?
Yeah. So luckily, the town that I did go to, it was called Izezaki. And it's one of the biggest cities within Gunma and the closest one to Tokyo, about a 1 hour and a half train. So my manager met me at the train station, and she had to, the first thing was, before we even get to the apartment, bank account, city office, all that kind of stuff. And as soon as I got in the car, the first thing she told me, and I'll never understood why she said this, but Gunma is known for having the ugliest women in Japan, just in case you were wondering. And I was like, okay, I mean, sure, fair enough. But when we were driving around, it was literally just nothing. And then it was like a circle of mountains. It was beautiful, but 22 years old. And, you know, when you look at Japan on the internet and you see all these, I mean, around here, all these tall buildings, lots of little restaurants, cool little things. And then it's just rice fields. It's kind of like, it's a bit of a different Japan than I expected. Yeah.
Did you feel a little bit uncomfortable with not being where you were planning to go next to the big city, Tokyo, and suddenly arriving in the countryside? It's a very different experience. Did you have some apprehensions, or were you like, just, okay, let's embrace this experience because I get the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, so I was a little bit disappointed because they obviously waited until I'd got into the country to tell me and that it'd been changed. I'm sure they knew beforehand. But if they told me beforehand, obviously the risk that I might have changed my mind. But I was determined, to make something of it. And I love walking, stuff like that. So I just walked around everywhere for the first week I was in Japan, covered basically the whole city. And I was like, there's a lot of beautiful stuff here, shrines, nice looking restaurants, a shopping mall. So I could make something of it. Yeah.
How soon after arriving did you actually get to start teaching?
It was literally the next day. So I got into my apartment, got my bank account. My manager had no time to help me get a phone, so I had no phone for about a week. But she was like, okay, your first classes are tomorrow. This is where the school is. This is a map to the school. Like, not even like a Google Maps location because I had no phone.
A paper
map. And it wasn't very detailed. So I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. But the company had like a rule to be like, you have to arrive 2 hours before your first lesson, because they were obviously worried if the kids came and you weren't there, it could be dangerous or something like that. So luckily I had a nice big buffer of time to get to work, because I didn't start work until the afternoon most days, because it was an after school kind of thing. So luckily it gave me a lot of time to figure out exactly where I needed to be.
What age range were you about to teach there?
So it was technically 0 with parents all the way up until 18.
Okay.
But most of the kids were elementary school. Like 80% of them were elementary school age.
How did you envision that going? Teaching is very challenging, especially with children. You were mentioning earlier, you didn't like your university years too much at this education part. Suddenly you're in the position of being the teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
And have that responsibility.
That's the irony of it, luckily, they were very free with what I could do in the lesson. Like, you had a curriculum of what they want you to teach, but you decided how you taught it. So I love singing. I love moving around. I hate textbooks, as you get, like, hating school. I did not like the textbooks, but I could turn the lessons into a physical game or something like that. So that was a very fun part of it, and it helped break the ice with a lot of the kids as well. A lot of the times that there was no assistant teacher, which was fine for most of the kids. But if you've got like 2 to 3 year olds and you've got no experience with children, suddenly being left in a room with 8 to 10 of them was like so mad that I was just looking at Mo crying on the floor, and I was like, I actually don't know.
Because you're 22 years old at the time.
Yeah. I was like, I barely know what to do with myself. Like, I barely got to hear in the first place. And they're crying. One of them like wet themselves, and another one's running around with blocks. And I was like, I actually don't know what I should be doing right now. Like, I can't, obviously shouting doesn't work, or I can't grab them, because you shouldn't, of course. But I was like, how do I stop them hurting themselves, but also get them to, it's like not even about the lesson at that point. It's like, let's get from the beginning of the lesson to the end of the lesson.
Without anyone getting injured.
And everybody's alive, and I'm alive. And it worked out. I never wanted to do that again afterwards, but with how my career ended up, that's basically what I ended up doing every day.
It's quite an interesting position to be put into as a 22-year-old without any kind of educational training, without any language skills. I imagine you didn't speak Japanese at the time. And with very young children, without any parenting experience either.
Exactly,
But you did say earlier that you had a sort of training for 3 weeks in Nagoya that was helpful, but that came after.
So exactly, like the training was basically what the curriculums involved, the nitty-gritty about, rules and regulations, what to do in an emergency. There was very little in terms of on like actual in-person training in a classroom. So that was all new. Because a lot of the team teaching that you did during training was with a veteran teacher. So they would cover you anyway. But yeah, it was a shock. And especially, again, not knowing the language, so I couldn't even use any words that I knew to try and communicate. But I think that's where it kind of breaks a lot of teachers, I think, where they decide, I cannot do this. And I think it's a good way to test your character. Like, if you can get through this and if you can put up with it and find a way to get through it, you can do anything.
What are the expectations set by the school when you arrive and say they put you in that position? They must know your professional background, your educational background, and whether or not you're a good fit. Because at the end of the day, for you at the time, it's just a job. It's you come here for 1 year to kind of find yourself. But for the kids, it's a part of their education. There's a sense of responsibility there. So from the school who holds ultimately that responsibility, what kind of expectations are they sharing with you? Or is it really just like, okay, here you go in?
Basically, the instruction was no complaints, no injuries. Make sure they don't quit. It was never really about how good the English was of the kids. It was more about enjoy the lesson, but make sure they all, they're all safe. So there was never really any push to be like, you need to get them good at English, or because the irony is the better at English they get, the more likely they are to leave because they can speak English. So it's kind of like to keep them in the system longer. The curriculum is simple. They don't learn much week by week. The month is basically repeated every week. So there was no expectations on what you actually did, as long as you followed what they wanted in the curriculum, and they're all happy and stay in the system.
In a lot of schools, there are multiple ALTs from foreign countries. Were you also together with someone else, or were you by yourself there?
So the way that it worked in this company was the whole each prefecture was a group. And you had, in Gunma, I think there was about 40 to 50 schools, and you had 4 schools. So it'd be a weekly rotation. But each school would have a Japanese teacher. So basically how it'd work is I go to school A on week 1, and then the other 3 weeks, the Japanese teacher does the lessons. And then you basically cycle around. So there was a whole group of English teachers, but you were all with your own schools. You had team teaching and training sometimes, but mainly, like if you ever got team teach, it was basically a cue that somebody could take a day off because you know that somebody else would be in the school. But yeah, so you didn't really get to see the other teachers much.
You go there for 1 year, but you end up staying 2.5. At what point during that year do you start deciding, I want to stay longer, I want to actually do this a little bit more?
Yeah, so I really took the challenge to study Japanese very seriously. So because I started in the afternoon, I would basically cycle to Starbucks every day and then be there for 3 hours studying just every day. And then I was able to get from like JLPT N5 to N3 within a year. So I felt that was a very good pace. And I was just getting used to daily life. I'd found all the things that I enjoyed, made some friends. And I was like, okay, I've done a year here, but I feel like there's more that I can do. And then I was like, I want to get my Japanese better. I was doing marathon training at the time. Unfortunately, that's all gone away now, but I'd planned to run a marathon. So I'd made goals for myself, and that kept me there basically. I'd made a good routine.
2.5 years in Gunma.
Yeah.
What makes you want to then move away from there and take your career elsewhere in Japan?
Yeah, so I realized that in these kind of the entry level teaching companies, there's not really any job progression. like there's one manager for each prefecture. But if that manager never leaves, you're basically there forever unless you move to another prefecture. So I realized that as long as my manager is here, there's literally no opportunity for me to grow. And there's not really any other companies within Gunma except for other entry-level English teaching companies. So I thought, take a chance to go to Tokyo, see what's there. Found a job in a kindergarten dispatch company, which is kind of similar, but you're just going to kindergartens instead of being in like English schools. So I wanted to go to Tokyo and kind of explore a little bit of what else I can do.
What made you want to stay in that ALT English teaching path in the first place? Because your background was different and you came to do this for a year.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I've talked to on the podcast, they also saw English teaching as an entry point, but they quickly wanted to move away. From day one, they basically knew, I want to just use this as a stepping stone and then move to something else. Why did you want to stay in that?
Yeah, so I don't think I necessarily wanted to stay like long term. It was basically the gateway for me to move into Tokyo quite easily. Because when you live far away in Gunma, I mean, this was like 2016. So, we didn't have like Zoom job interviews and stuff like that yet. So just coming all the way to Tokyo for one interview was basically a day, 2 days job. So I just wanted to get into Tokyo first and then kind of explore what else I could do. Because by the time I'd moved to Tokyo, I'd also got the N2 in JLPT, doing kind of like translation projects. So I was going to see if I could move into something else afterwards. But it was kind of just the gateway to get to Tokyo, yeah.
But you didn't move into something else.
I did not know.
You stayed.
So I am I'm terrible at studying and I'm terrible at like being in a classroom, but I really like doing stuff, moving around, talking to people. So when I moved to this new company in Tokyo, it was a very active group. You were always going to different schools. There was a lot of divisions. There was the kindergarten division, the kind of Juku division, Japanese language school. There was a lot of different stuff, school for disabled children and stuff like that. So when I was doing just the regular job in the kindergarten, I just started asking my boss, like, what else can I do? Like, can I go visit another division? Can I learn about how you sell these lessons to people? And after 1 year in that company, I won the award for the best new employee for the whole company of 1,000 people. And I was the first non-Japanese person to win that. And I kind of put it down to, I was so annoying that I would always just be asking for stuff to do. And that's where my connection to the international preschool came, because my boss came up to me and said, look, we know you're always looking for stuff to do. At this time, my wife was pregnant as well. And I'd got married in that time as well. And he said, actually, we're planning to open a nursery. And do you want to go and see it being built and meet the teachers and see how this kind of thing is run? So I was like, of course, yeah, because teaching kindergartens, if you don't have a class that day, you're just sat in the office. And I did not just want to sit and laminate for 6 hours. So I kept going to this nursery school and I got to see not just English teaching, but childcare and stuff like that. I got to like help in the kitchen, looking how the meals are made for the little kids. And it was a really fun thing to see. And then that's how my interest in childcare started to come about as well.
You mentioned a couple of things that were interesting. Earlier, you said, when talking about Gunma still, that it was a sort of like entry-level English school.
Yeah.
And then you talked about this company in Tokyo having all these divisions, basically with education programs for different ages and such. So you really start seeing how the system, the educational system is structured. For people that don't really know, what is a good kind of starting point to understand this Japanese educational system and how this works, maybe specifically for English teaching?
Yeah, so there's so many different companies you can go to, but a lot of them will maybe dispatch you to a school. So you can see the daily life in a school, but you'll never really get to see how it's run. So the good thing about this company was that because they had so many divisions, you could learn why these kind of like, what does the Juku do? What's the point of the Juku, the cram school? And there's actually a lot of big companies in Japan that have an English division as like a sub of it. So if anyone comes to Japan as an English teacher who works for a big company, I would just say, always ask, like, can I just see what else you do? Like, because there's so many different ages, as you know, as I talked about, I taught so many different ages. I got to visit a school that's for dropouts, like kids who drop out of regular education because they were bullied or they were the bully, which was quite weird in a way that the bullies and the bullied were out of school in a class together. But then also kids who maybe were anxiety or mental health issues. So I really got to see like a spectrum of different classes. But that's all because I just always asked, like, just send me somewhere.
What about all these schools? You mentioned entry-level schools. Is it the ranking based on reputation, or is it based on the kind of classes that are being provided, or how would you kind of qualify all these different schools?
So I would say a lot of the entry-level schools, like, is it okay to say the names of companies? Okay, yeah. So there's like,
as long as it's not defamation.
No, yeah. So you've got like GABA, which is more like a one-to-one conversation class. So you don't really get to feel Japanese education there. The same with things like maybe EON or ECC. They come to you in a classroom. So you never really get to see what education in Japan is really like. But if you work for a company like maybe Interac or Heart or Borderlink, which don't necessarily have the best reputations in terms of like progression or salary.
From a career perspective.
Exactly, yeah. What you do get to see is how a Japanese school is run. What do they do throughout the year? What is the English classes role within the school itself? So I think that's a great, like, if you're really interested in education and education within Japan, those kind of ones I would recommend if the salary was a bit better.
I think the salary especially has been a big talking point because to my understanding, they have kind of been going down.
Exactly.
And there's been a lot of conversations about kind of what is the role of ALTs. Nowadays, they seem very disposable. Everyone takes them for granted and they know they're just here for a short period of time. And that leads to a lack of integration in the system, lack of consistency for the kids. How do you see this, having been in that industry now for 13 years and having seen the behind the scenes too?
So I think the ALT system could be really, really good. But I think the role is just not considered to be beneficial in terms of like teaching kids English. It's like in school, I had to learn French and German, but it's because we had to learn French and German. And I cannot remember a single thing about French or German. Like, I remember like just some greetings and the word cheese in both languages, but it's kind of like that with ALTs. And I think it can be really disheartening for a lot of people coming to Japan who really want to teach. But because the ALT, it stands for assistant language teacher. So you don't even get to lead the class. Maybe sometimes you're forced to lead, but you're not supposed to. So you're kind of there just to go through a textbook, which isn't created by ALTs, and you're only in a school, you're only with a class maybe once a month or twice a month at best, because you're also going to multiple schools. So obviously it's government funded, because the way it works is education boards have a budget. They pay one of these dispatch companies to send teachers to their schools. But then, of course, that's where the race to the bottom comes. Because if company A wants a contract with Kanagawa and company B wants a contract with Kanagawa, well, it's who will take the least money. because the government obviously wants to save.
And this is where the saving comes on the salaries teachers.
Exactly, because, you know, it wasn't great even 13 years ago, like maybe 250 a month, but also 13 years ago, the economy was very different. Now we're in the time that I can't even think about going back to England because I will have no money left. Whereas 13 years ago, a return flight to England might have only been 2 weeks out. It was like 100,000 yen. Now one way is like 200,000 yen. So 240, 250, not great, but livable. Now we're seeing like 190, 210. Yeah, I saw a role that was posted for a full-time teaching position, which was 2.2 million yen a year, which is, it must be like 180 or 190. Yeah.
You explained that there's a board of education from a certain area that basically has government money to provide ALTs to the schools of their district. And then all these other companies will bid for that and try to get the contracts. What is the role of the ALT there? What exactly what is a contract for, if not for English teaching? Because you explained as well that it's not really about the English teaching all the time. There's already a system in place. There's a Japanese teacher that teaches English, and then the ALT is kind of just there. Why even have them?
It's because a few years ago, the government made the rule that all children must learn English from the 3rd grade of elementary school. It used to be the 5th, which is not a huge difference, but it did reduce the classes needed by tens of thousands if we count the whole country. So a few years ago, the government said, okay, all children are going to learn English from the 3rd grade. And it's good to just have the English teachers there to at least look like there's an English lesson going on, do some songs, teach them to read phonics perhaps. So it's kind of a government regulation that they have to learn English. But then it's actually up to each prefecture and then with each city as well. Because the city that I live, Funabashi, actually does English from the 1st grade. So my daughter already does English. Well, she can speak English anyway, but her school can do English lessons already. Whereas the school, the city where my school was, the preschool, Ichikawa, they actually don't have any ALTs because Ichikawa City decided, no, we're fine with just Japanese teachers teaching English. And then maybe 3 to 4 times a year, they might have an event. So it depends on the city as well. I think it depends on what they want to. Does it look more inviting to have English teachers in their schools and stuff like that? Yeah.
It's interesting because it creates a situation where you have people overseas that are looking for a way to move to Japan. And still today, English teaching is usually one of the first things that people think about, even though there are many opportunities. But when you look at it from within the system, actually, it's just a kind of a government, corporate kind of negotiation and just kind of pawns being moved around, if I can say it so negatively, without any consideration, neither really for for the educational side of things and for the people that are being brought from overseas to work here.
Yeah. It definitely does feel like you're just a tool, like a cog in their system. And I think that's why it really tests, well, you should know that going in, that you're going to come to Japan to be an ALT. Don't take that job too much to heart. Like, because I'll see a lot of posts online and a lot of people will message me to say like, look, I'm working so hard in the school. The teachers don't appreciate me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but they're not there to appreciate you. Like, you're just a person sent to that school. Like, I think a lot of ALTs also misunderstand. They are not a part of that school in terms of like a permanent position. Like, they are just dispatched because your school could get changed at any time. They might just decide, this teacher's quit in this area. Okay, it's just easier to shuffle you all around. And okay, now you're going to this school, you're going to this school. But a lot of ALTs, maybe they'll be in the school and they'll want to be a part of the school. They'll want to connect with the teachers. They'll want to connect with the kids. but then they don't realize, like, actually the goal isn't for you to be a part of that school. You're just there to fill a number, to fill a space, which I can understand must be very hurtful for people to really think about. But that's just the reality of what it is as well.
You just described some of the issues with the ALT system, but you also said earlier the system could be good. How do you envision the system actually working effectively?
Yeah, so it all depends on how much they really want people to learn English. So if the goal is, because obviously there are, I think, 30,000 ALTs in Japan, just ALTs. But Japan's rating on the Global English Index is like, 91 out of 126 or something like that. So even though we've got 30,000 English teachers from English-speaking countries or who have been educated in English, the level of English is not going up. So if they made a system where, okay, we're going to create a curriculum with the input of real teachers, and we're going to maybe increase the number of ALTs, but they're going to get to stay in the schools longer, that could work. But it's also sourcing that many people. That would be a challenge, because right now, it's no problem that the countries where English teachers have come from have changed, but there is a big shift in demographic of ALTs, especially because salaries have gone down, and the salaries are not likely to go up. So you're going to really struggle to find enough people. So it would take a whole rework from the bottom to say, we are going to make English teaching great again in Japan, and we're going to make it serious now. But it would take a lot of work to change everything. Yeah.
You start working for that large corporation in Tokyo, and you start seeing how this all works.
Yeah.
What is the role of the schools? What is the role of the dispatch companies? What is the role of the ALT? And you kind of quickly realize you don't want to stay in that position. You want to kind of turn it into something more stable, something that kind of matches your ambitions as well. And you keep asking for more until you get that opportunity to see that new school being built.
Yeah.
What happens then for you on your career trajectory?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, when I went to visit this nursery, my wife was pregnant, and we'd made the decision that we were going to move to my wife's hometown, which is Funabashi, which is where we still live now. So I was going to leave that job because it would have been a 2-hour commute each way. So we had made the decision to move to a new city. And it just so happened that about 500 meters from my wife's parents' house, there was a new school being built, which was a public nursery. So like a government-funded nursery. But they had an international spin on it. So it was going to be a nursery for 0 to 6-year-olds, but they were also going to have English teachers there all the time to do English lessons, which is kind of like more of an immersion kind of thing. So I applied for that job, and luckily, because I'd been working with this other nursery, that the timing was kind of perfect. So that's how I ended up getting into the childcare industry, which is the same one I ended up running in the future.
So how does one go from just being a teacher and kind of being tied to this image of you're not necessarily part of the school, you're just here to play a role, to becoming the principal of the school and suddenly being the one that runs it, and then you suddenly have to deal with all the political side of things, since you mentioned it's a public school, and then also the corporate, if they are donors or investors, or like what kind of how did that kind of happen for you?
So this school was brand new, like literally built for this opening. And so all the teachers were brand new. The company itself was about 5 years old at the time, but they were expanding quite quick. And the principal of the school, it was his first experience as principal. And he was really, really good with the kids. But he was not good at communicating with adults. And it immediately, right from the opening, was chaos. There was nonstop fighting between the teachers, and usually you hear stories of the foreign teachers and the foreign teachers fighting each other, or the foreign staff and the Japanese staff maybe disagreeing. This was the Japanese staff screaming at each other, and I'd never seen anything like that before. Like literally, like one of the nurse in the school, like literally threw a pencil case at the principal and kind of shouted some horrible slurs at him about like mental disabilities and stuff, which was not good, of course. And the office, the man who works in the office was screaming at the principal in front of the kids. And I was like, what have I walked into?
On what grounds were all these infightings happening?
Because he was very bad at sharing information. And when you're working in childcare, communication is the most important thing. Like, what's going on with this family? What's going on with this kid? What's like government money's obviously got to come in, so all the paperwork's got to be ready. Because if you don't sign off on all the paperwork, you will get the money once it's fixed, but it'll be delayed. And that could shut down the company if you don't have enough in the back. So he would not be great at communicating with each area. Like the kitchen staff hated him. The nurse got really upset at him all the time. He was like really nice, but not strong, which is something I've noticed in quite a lot of nurseries in Japan. But because I could speak Japanese, I was asked to become the manager who was in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of him having to communicate with everyone, I would communicate with everyone first, share everything to him, push him for answers as fast as possible. And then that was my first management experience with a Japanese team as well, because there was only 2 non-Japanese staff, but the other person couldn't speak Japanese, so I got left with everything. So I had opportunities to have meetings, mendans, like kind of like consultations with the staff, training sessions, and that was like my first opportunity at like management in this industry. And then the school that I ended up being the principal at, their principal quit, and they had just had a big accident where one of the kids managed to escape the school, and nobody noticed. And one of the parents found 2 of the kids just playing in the street. So a lot of parents quit the school. Wow. The teachers were like, we're out of here. We're like, this is terrible. What a horrible place to work. So they asked me, you can speak to the Japanese staff, the foreign staff. I also got a license called the Kosodate Shien, which is like not a full childcare license, but it's like a half. I can technically be counted as a hoikishi, which is like a childcare nursery teacher in Japan, as long as I'm paired with another one. So if I'm in the room with another hoikishi, we count as 2. So I'd got experience on the actual technical side as well. So they asked me, please go over there and fix it, like manage it. Yeah. You
said a lot of things, and I have like a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One that I just want to bounce off from is this license you got.
Yeah.
Up until now, we talked about all the ALT system and such. There's no license required. People come without any teaching experience and such. What kind of licenses exist, and which ones are important, and which ones maybe should be more enforced to kind of stabilize this education system for all the foreign people that come without kind of that background?
Yeah, so I got something called a TEFL certificate before I came to Japan, because I wanted to learn more about
teaching English as a foreign language.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And it was an online course with it was like a weekend of learning how to make lesson plans, how to teach grammar, how to teach kids. So it wasn't a huge course, but it was something. And I think it's necessary that everyone should get something, whether it be a TEFL or a TESOL certificate. There's also CELTA, but it's quite expensive and takes a long time to get. Like, getting TEFL is not too expensive, and you can do most of it online. But it will at least give you the fundamentals of how to teach, how to communicate with non-English speakers. It at least gives you a bit of knowledge on what to do. if everyone could try and get something like that, I'm sure the quality of teaching would go up.
So these are international licenses. The one you got was specific to Japan for nursing. Yeah. What kind of licenses are there? Which ones are required, and when do they become required?
So for the Kosodate Shien, it's depending on the city whether they give any benefits for it. So if you want to work in a nursery as an English teacher, or even like just a help assistant, you don't need the license. But again, as I mentioned, if you can count as a teacher, because if you're in a nursery, there's you have a number of teachers per kid. So for example, 0-year-old kids, you have to have one licensed teacher per 3 kids. And then 1-2-year-olds, it's 6. I think it might have changed to 5 already. I'm not quite sure, but 6 kids per teacher. So if you can get this license, you really help out the school, not just as a teacher, but to get the benefits like the subsidiaries from the government. Because where I live, Funabashi, they give money if you have licensed teachers, even with the Kosodate Shien, to work in that school. Because you can work on Saturdays, you can work in the evenings, and it helps keep the staffing strong.
What is required for you to get that license?
A lot of seminars in Japanese. I had 6 full days of just different kinds of seminars, like, of course, like the different levels of age groups in nurseries, how to take care of them, how to take care of children with disabilities, a first aid course, some kind of like psychological stuff as well, like how to deal with maybe parents and all different kinds of stuff like that. And then once you've done the 6 days, and especially in Japanese, and it was a 200-page textbook, I was like, that is a hurdle. You also have to do 2 full days work experience in a Japanese certified by this licensed nursery, which was a great experience as well, because you just got, especially as a non-Japanese person, to just walk into a random nursery and be like, hey, I'm here to I'm here to learn, and everyone's like, oh, we did not expect that, because I'm a bit bigger than most people and a bit louder maybe. So when I come in, because you've seen the stereotypical aprons maybe that
I've seen them.
So for the training we had to wear one as well, and obviously I couldn't find one my size. So I had to go to Shimamura, and my apron was like up to here. But it was fun. It was interesting. But you do need Japanese ability, because you had to write a report with a pencil at the end as well. I think it was about 500 characters. Yeah.
So you get the license, and you get asked to go to the school that just had its reputation slashed and parents leave because of one of the worst things that can potentially happen at a school, kids suddenly escaping. Sounds like something my son would do. But how do you feel about that? Isn't this also a little bit intimidating? You know that a lot of people in the area probably now have like already talked about this, and then on top of this, maybe foreign teacher is now the new principal. How is that gonna go? Or did you see it as like, oh, I'm gonna turn this around, a personal challenge?
I was quite excited, because these opportunities don't come for a lot of, you know, I like you have like 30,000 ALTs, probably 30,000 teachers in other schools. Like the chance to get into something like that is quite slim. So more than nerves, I kind of felt more excited, because it's like, this is the chance. Like I'd done all of these things. I'd won the award. I got the license. I'd pestered everyone all the time for things to do. Now I get to be the principal of a school, which kind of is like a very unique opportunity. I didn't know anyone who had done it at the time. And it was my chance to kind of learn a lot more, get the management experience, because it's managing both Japanese staff, non-Japanese staff. There's a lot of work, even for an international school. There's a lot of work with the government, So it was quite exciting to just get that down. Yeah.
What are some of the things that kind of really surprised you when you suddenly got into that position? Because suddenly that opens a new door, you get access to new kinds of information and an even better understanding of how this whole works.
Yeah.
You had seen how the big company works and operate, you had been in ALT, you've done kind of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But principle is something new.
Yeah.
What are some of these things that kind of surprise you? Like, oh, actually, that's how it works. That's how it's organized. That's why we do it this way.
Yeah. So the first thing that surprised me was it's Japan, but there is so much paperwork. So every single invoice needed to be stamped by me. And not only stamped, it had to be stamped perfectly. Like you couldn't have like a circle with a little missing part in the corner. So I remember on the first day, the office person had made the invoices for the next month. I had to stamp like 100 papers without knowing really what the invoices were for because I hadn't learned it yet. And stamping stuff became like very routine. Like all the subsidiary papers, all the invoices, all the documents for the teachers, like you got to get your stamping technique down. But then a few things like parents will message you, even the teachers too, anytime. Like it could be Saturday at 7:00 in the morning. It could be 11 p.m. on a Friday. You will get a message from somebody.
On your private phone?
So at first, I only had my private phone with Slack installed, but then they did give me a private phone eventually.
That's quite modern to have Slack for school, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if she's probably fine with it. My wife ended up working at that company for a couple of years, and she's the one who told them to put Slack on.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how that ended up getting there. So yeah, we had Slack, but they always told me you have to keep your phone nearby the private phone, the work phone, sorry, because if someone messages you, you've got to deal with it as soon as possible. So that was also like a bit like you go out for dinner, you got to keep 2 phones with you just in case. I didn't like it, but I knew I had to do it. And then all the little things like teachers taking days off, you know, coming from the teacher to the manager and seeing like, oh, this teacher has asked for 2 days off for his son's Undokai sports festival on different months. And he forgot that he already asked me for 1 day off for a sports festival. So he'd obviously lied about the festival being on. But just seeing from the management side, the stuff that teachers do and say was quite funny as well. Especially when I told him, like, didn't your son have a sports festival like 6 weeks ago? I was like, oh, no, sorry. I mean my daughter. My daughter's got a sports festival. Dealing with that is also quite tough, though, because you know how it feels to be the teacher, but then suddenly you've got to be the manager and you've got to do stuff that you didn't like your manager doing when you were working as the teacher. Like, you know, if somebody asks you a request for extra materials and you're like, I'll check with the head office, and they say no, and then you've got to tell them no, but they obviously get upset at you because you're the one who told them no. But you can't say, but it wasn't me, it was the head office, because it wouldn't be professional. So jumping from that, the teacher to the manager was quite tough. Yeah.
You brought up the relationship with the parents and the need to be present at any time.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is the relationship like with the parents in general? What are the kind of things you're expected to do? I see my son is now going to kindergarten, and every single day we get a report.
Yeah.
Of, okay, today he ate this, he asked for okawari, he slept this amount of hours, he played here, he played there, he did that, and he cried once, twice, or not at all. And I find that like it's an incredible amount of work. And as a parent, it's nice to kind of get that. But also I'm wondering, like when I went to kindergarten, my parents probably never got that kind of detailed report on a daily basis.
Yeah. So at the peak, there was 18 one-year-olds in my school. And there was 4 teachers. So when the kids were asleep during nap time, just all 4 teachers were just on the phone, just filling out the Kodomon app. So they would say, okay, you do this kid, this kid, this kid, this kid, I'll do this one, this. So they would set which kids, and they would just try and get it all done. To be honest, like I would always tell them, like, you don't have to write too much. we tell the parents you're doing, obviously we want to make sure you take your break times, you've got to eat your lunch, there's other stuff to do. But sometimes the teachers would be like, no, we want to do it. Like, we really want to tell the parents. Because what I really loved in the nursery system is that the teachers do genuinely love the kids. And they chose to do that job because they love the work and the being with the kids. So I would tell them, like, just write 100 characters and then try and limit to 5 minutes per kid. But they would just write these whole essays of every single thing that they did. And then they would tell me like, oh, I don't have any time to do prep. And I was like, well, that's why I told you to just do 5 minutes per kid and don't use any emojis. Just copy and paste, like, the part where you go to the park. You don't have to write, this kid went to the park and played with this. You can say, we all went to the park and this is the kind of games that we played. But yeah, they would always just put so much effort into it, which the parents loved as well. As you mentioned, like seeing your son's kindergarten one, the parents really appreciate it because, nowadays they're so busy. They don't get to spend much time with their kids. So to see clearly what they've done every day, they really appreciate it. Yeah.
So what do they then message you at 11 in the evening or 6 in the morning?
So some of it will be like, there's an event tomorrow. What do we need to bring? And a lot of the times I'll say, we sent it on the app. Please check the app. And they'll be like, I can't find it on the app. And it's like, okay, I'll send it to you again. Or little things like, why did my child not get seconds for his lunch? And I'll be like, well, I don't know because I wasn't there in the classroom. I can't find out right now. Sorry. Like, I think a lot of parents maybe get worried about things happening to their kids and just can't wait until the next day. Sometimes we had to deal with like really personal issues, divorces, domestic violence, stuff like that. I had to go to the police station multiple times because like things happening at home. Those things were quite scary to deal with as well because you don't know how it's going to end up.
So a child potentially being abused by the parents and you seeing the bruises and needing to report that.
Yeah, so there's been times where we've seen like a massive bruise on the arm and we ask the kid like, what happened? And they'll say, my mummy did it or my daddy did it. And we can't just let it go because if they might be mistaken or it could have been an accident. But we have to report it to the child welfare center to say like the kid has said this. We're just going to let you know. We can't really tell the parents that we've talked to the thing, but there are times where maybe one parent has gone to the welfare center about the other parent because maybe there's troubles within the family and stuff like that. Maybe a neighbor has heard the kid screaming and called the child welfare center. So we got like 2 or 3 times a year that we had to go in and describe the family's life and what we've seen, show camera footage and stuff like that. Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of responsibilities suddenly.
Yeah, especially when a lot of the times we will just talk to the child welfare center, they'll talk to the parents and it will calm down. But there are times where maybe talking to the child welfare center, they say like, we're not going to tell the parents that you talk to us. But it's pretty obvious that, who else would have told them. So we did have one situation where, it was a single mother and she always looked very tired. And we always told her like, if you ever need anything, just, bring your kid for longer, leave her longer so you can take a rest. But there was a time where the kid did have bruises on her leg. The child welfare center went to the parents' house the same day, which we got upset at the child welfare center because could you not be a bit more discreet about it? Like, and the mum knew that we'd called and then she screamed at us, quit the school immediately and stuff like that. So
do you ever find out what happens to the kid after? Because something obviously happened, right?
So, yeah, we knew what school that they went to because we knew another parent who was in that school. And the situation with the family was like, I think the mum was working in a snack bar, like one of those evenings. So she was always working late. Maybe the kid would be left with granddad or something like that. So there was a lot of drinking involved. Like, I don't think there was any actual violence involved, because she was nice, but you see sometimes situations where it's maybe not a very, not safe, but a comfortable situation at home.
How many years have you now been a principal, or have you done that?
6. Yeah, 6. And it was a very fast 6 years as well. Yeah.
Time flies when you suddenly have all of these things to deal with every single day.
Oh, God, yeah. The nice thing about working in a school is that the year is basically repeated. You know, the events that you do, the curriculum.
You kind of know what to expect, except for the daily things.
Exactly. So the daily things is when things trip up, because you could just come to school one day and the police are there. And I'll be like, what's happened? And a parent has called the police because the jacket of the kid is ripped. And she thinks that one of the teachers did it. And we were like, why would anyone do that to the kid? And I recommend all schools do this, but we had cameras in every single room. I know that a lot of English teachers fear that the cameras are watching them, but the cameras, at least in my school, was really to protect if anything went wrong. So, you know, we let the police see everything. Like, the kid's jacket is literally just in the cloakroom all day, every day. But the mum was insisting that one of us had done it because we wanted to intimidate the parents, because she was married to a baseball player and she thinks that maybe we were trying to do something to them. And it was so weird because there was no reasoning behind any of it. But yeah, I got to school I would always go there at 7 a.m. He was there waiting outside. The policeman was outside. It was like, we got a report that someone's damaged property of one of the parents. I had to, you know, the whole get your visa out and stuff like that, the Zydu card. In front of my whole team, I had to get my ID card out and show the police the kids were there and everything. And I was like, what is going on? And I think for some people that would like really break them in terms of, this is so like, you know, why is this happening? But you never know what the parents are dealing with as well. Like, they could be struggling with stress or tired, and they just end up taking it out on you. You just got to put up with it.
A lot of things to put up with. You've now done this for 6 years after kind of working your way through this entire system. You've kind of given us a good overview of how this all is.
Yeah.
And you mentioned throughout and just now as well that for some people that might be a breaking point. Sometimes it's just being left alone with the young kids, or suddenly being faced with a police officer asking you to pull out your card in front of your entire school. What is it that you would like people to know about ALT teaching, about the system in Japan, about if they want to do this, if they want to try this, even if it's just a stepping stone, what should they be prepared for?
So be prepared for doing a lot of things that you might not understand why you're doing it. Like, you will get sent to multiple schools with like very bare minimum classes. And you might think, well, what am I even doing? Like, I'm not even really teaching them anything. Am I even valuable as an employee? But really take that opportunity to learn about Japan and figure out what you want to do. Like, as I said, like, it is a stepping stone. So it's kind of like the hazing of Japan, right? If you can get through your experience as an ALT or an English teacher, you can do other stuff in Japan. You can move into another career. You can move into a better school. You've just got to get through this barrier of, I can't speak the language. I don't know the culture properly yet. I don't really know how to be a teacher. If you can push yourself to survive that first year, or because a lot of people do give up after 3 or 4 months. Like, you've got to make it through a year, because it's kind of really making yourself stronger. Because when you work in a proper Japanese company as well, there's a lot, like big meetings that you don't understand why they're happening, overtime, like going out for parties and stuff like that. There's a lot of cultural things that you maybe don't like or don't expect, but you've just got to learn that that's the Japanese way, and you've got to how to put up with it, how to get through it, how to navigate it, avoid it if you can. There's a lot that you can learn yourself about becoming a stronger person. And sometimes that comes through having a difficult experience. Yeah.
Where does that leave you in your career? You've tried a lot of things. You were asking for always more things to do. Now you are the principal, and you are the one that gives us things to do to other people. You've done this for 6 years. What would you like to kind of build on or work towards from there on? Or are you maybe very happy with where you are now?
So the hope is that I can create my own education system in Japan. And I've always been very open with my company that I am not here forever. Like, I really have ideas of what I enjoy teaching to people. I've been very lucky to, like, there's a Kodomon, which is a lot of schools' communication system. I was very lucky that just yesterday, I gave a training session to Japanese, like, nursery teachers, kindergarten teachers all over Japan. I think there was over like 2,000 people in attendance online.
Wow.
And that was all in Japanese as well. So I hope to move more into helping schools and helping teachers and helping families navigate an international education system. Or my skill was never really like teaching so much, but the communication part I always enjoyed. I was always very good with the parents, helping calm the teachers down if they needed it. So for me, I'm hoping I can go into more training and education for parents, teachers, to help them become better teachers and parents. Yeah.
Are there some changes in the system altogether that you'd like to see? You talked earlier about it all depends on how much English teaching they actually want to do and implement. But aside from that, like when you see how this all works and comes together, ultimately, in theory at least, the benefit should be for the children because it's their education. And seem like it's not always the priority in this kind of complex system that is in place. What are some of the changes you would like to see, hypothetically or ideally?
Yeah, so from my experience in the international preschool, of course, the English teachers teaching English is great. It's obviously that's what they're there to do. I found that when Japanese staff teach English as well, the kids learn so much from, like, maybe even better than from an English teacher. So, for example, we had a 2-year-old class, and I intentionally put 2 English-speaking Japanese teachers as the class teachers. And that class had the best English for a 2-year-old class I'd ever seen.
Wow.
Because I think the kids could see, while they're speaking English, so that we can speak English too, they could see that the teachers were truly bilingual. Because I think one of the difficult things is when English teachers come here, they get told, never speak Japanese. Don't even let the kids know that you know Japanese. And I think that's not good, because knowing that you can speak multiple languages is the goal at the end of the day. You're trying to teach a second language to the kids. But if the kids don't know that you can speak a second language, like, where's the inspiration coming from? But having these 2 English-speaking Japanese teachers doing both Japanese songs and English songs, reading books in Japanese and English, like, the kids' English levels were just incredible. So with these teachers, like, at the moment, it's like the ALT and the Japanese teacher together, where maybe the English teacher's just doing like role plays from the textbook. If the Japanese teacher can also use a lot of English together with the ALT, I think that would be much more inspiring for the kids. Because with the parents in my school, they would always say like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't speak English. I was like, no, I know you can speak English, because I listen to when the teachers are doing like evaluations with the kids, and sometimes the teachers cannot speak Japanese, just they cannot use the language skill-wise. So they do the evaluation in English with the parents. And I can hear the parents understanding and responding to it. I was like, why do you keep saying you can't speak English? Because I know most of you can, at least at a basic conversation level. But a lot of Japanese people just don't think that they can. So I think that inspiration and belief of speaking English is very important.
So not so much a change in a system, but a change in the methodology in class and how the ALTs are used in combination with the Japanese teacher, and maybe emphasizing that the English-speaking Japanese teachers are still the pillar of the kids' education. And it should be anchored around that.
Yeah, because it would be ideal if there could be an English teacher in every single school.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're talking like hundreds of thousands. And that would just be impossible to source. Because it is difficult when you've got a school of 900 kids and you're expected to teach all of them within a week. Like in terms of minutes per kid's time.
Oh, yeah.
Each kid's probably getting like 45 seconds. That's if the class is going well. Because I remember in my French classes, half of the class would just be the kids making fun of the teacher getting annoyed, and then doing nothing for half the class. So if there could be a system where there could be an English teacher in every class, that would be perfect. But then you would also need skilled, willing English teachers. And if they can't even pay teachers well enough now, it'd just be so difficult. So the work would have to be put into the Japanese staff.
A complex system to solve, maybe something for people that are struggling to think about as well. It was super interesting to kind of understand how this works a little bit more than before. Jake, we covered so many topics. Do you feel like there's anything that we didn't get into that you would have liked to still talk about today that was important to you?
I think just in terms of, because maybe a lot of people listening to this or watching this are probably either in Japan working as a teacher or maybe thinking about coming to Japan. And I think what's really important for people to understand is you can make a good career here in Japan. You just have to figure out how you're going to make it happen. What skills you're going to get. Like, I taught myself Japanese, but I was very lucky to be in a position that I had so much free time. And this was also like pre-streaming. So I would go to, Staya, the
bookshop.
I don't know if they still do DVD rentals, but when I first came to Japan, it was a DVD rental shop before, because now there's a lot of fancy bookshops. But the one in Gunma just only did DVD rentals. So I would just rent DVDs, just anything, and just immerse myself in Japanese. So learn the language, of course. But the breadth of careers you can do in Japan has really opened up. When I first came here, it was be an English teacher. If your Japanese is good enough, you can be a translator. But that was about it, really. There were some YouTubers, but this was before Japan YouTube paid people. You didn't get any money a long time ago. There was people you've had like Kurt Bell on here and stuff like that. They were YouTubers before YouTube even had an office in Japan. But now there's so much you can do. So come to Japan and be an English teacher as like a stepping stone, but also always be aware that you need to build career skills that can help you move into any social media skills. Like, I think everyone should make a YouTube or a TikTok to practice speaking, get better at public speaking, speaking outside, describing stuff, be creative. A lot of people moved into tech during COVID, which is still a bit iffy in Japan, I think. Not well paid yet. Obviously, you guys here with this studio and stuff like that, there's so much to do here that isn't just English teaching. So come here, learn the culture, learn the language, get some experience teaching in Japan in a Japanese company, and you can move into something else as long as you prepare yourself.
Or like yourself, you can have a career in education if that's what you really want. And then you need to kind of really take initiative, as you've shown, to get the next experience, to see what happens behind closed doors, and to kind of build yourself those opportunities. just being an ALT can be challenging, but it is a stepping stone that has successfully worked for many and for you.
Yeah.
Jake, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
It's been super interesting to hear your journey, to get an understanding of what's it like and how this all works. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. This was Unpacking Japan, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Wow. What a journey. Really cool. Thanks for sticking with us until the end. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to Unpacking Japan. It's the best way to help us grow and ensures we can keep bringing you these deep dives every week. Till next time, take care. And see you next time.